Thomas Sowell explained visually. Read his books, watch the YouTube videos. But if you're not the reading type, I'm here to take his amazing concepts, break them down, use visual aids for learners of all different levels, students to lifelong learners. You can also check out American History 1, 2. It's based on the AP guidelines, civics and economics, other quick lessons from books, all with a bunch of visual guides and aids to help you better understand these concepts. Mash that subscribe button, click the like, click the share, youtube.com/social studies games. We're focusing on trickle down theory and tax cuts for the rich. You can find this book for free on his website. I made a quick link, tinyurl.com/TS tax cuts. Increasing taxes on the rich does not work. This is the final video of the series. You should probably know by now. Let's keep going into it. What we're focusing on today is, we get it. We got it. It's paradoxical. As JFK said, raising taxes actually lowers government revenue, and lowering the tax rate actually increases the government revenue because people pull their money out of the tax shelters, put it in the market, and that way the government can access it and steal it away with their greedy little fingers. But we all get it by now. The problem that we left the last video in is, okay, if we get this, if Democrats understood this, if Republicans understood this, and everyone understood this, then why don't we understand this anymore? And where did this trickle-down idea come from? Who created this concept? Wilson, JFK, the progressives, they didn't believe in it. Where did this come from? That's what we're going to get into. So Thomas Sowell says, look through all the literature, study all the economics books, and look for trickle-down theory. Tell me where you're going to find it. Look, and he says, no such theory has been found in even the most voluminous and learned histories of economic theories, including J.A. Schumpeter's monumental 1,260-page history of economic analysis. Look for it. It is not there. It's not there. You know what's there is, hey, if you lower taxes, you can change economic behavior, which might increase output and allow the government to access more money for government revenue. What's not in these books is this trickle-down theory of, the prosperity of the rich is going to somehow trickle down and create the prosperity of the poor, but in the end, it never really happens. We should tax them. That's not there. It's made up nonsense. Yet this trickle-down theory and tax cuts for the rich, a non-existent theory, has become the object of denunciations from the pages of, wait for it, the New York Times, the Washington Post, to the political arena. It has been attacked by Professor Paul Krugman as well. They say, this trickle-down thing, these rich people are just trying to avoid taxes. That's all it is. They don't want to pay their fair share of taxes. And this whole idea is just made up. This whole lowering the taxes, it doesn't work. It's this trickle-down. Okay, so let's get it. Calm down, everybody. Everyone understood this. Democrats, Republicans, watch the previous videos. Everyone understood. You lower the rates, you actually raise the revenue. Keynes, Wilson, Kennedy, they all got it. And none of them thought of this magical trickle-down thing. No, what they thought was, you lower the rates, you're actually going to increase revenue. Everyone got it until they stopped getting it. Why did the Democrats stop getting it? Why did the Democrats turn away from evidence? Why did the Democrats deny facts? Think about it. Why would they? Well, it's obvious. It's power. It's power, folks. Why would you possibly deny this? Well, it goes back to video 1 when I told you about the perception. Lowering the taxes on the rich is not really a good look. But it works. But it's not really a good work. But it works. But it's not really a good work. So it's really easy to play on that natural, resentful attitude of human beings. It's very easy to take advantage of the jealousy of middle-class America, of the jealousy of low-income America. It's very easy for the Democrats to say, we could stay and agree with the Republicans on the facts. We could stay and agree with the conservatives on the evidence. And we could keep doing the best policy for the country. Or we can play these fools. We can turn them on the rich. Yes, lowering the taxes on the rich actually benefits everyone. That's cool, and it makes sense, but it has to be explained like I have done in these videos, and maybe half the people watching don't really understand it. But you know what's really easy to explain? Let's stick it to the rich. That's what the game is. Why did the Democrats separate? Why are they no longer like Kennedy, Keynes, and Wilson? Because it's an easy way to get votes. We're going to raise taxes on the rich, and we're going to redistribute it to you. All right, I'm voting. So if I vote for your guy, you're going to take money from them and give it to me? Okay, good deal. But it doesn't work. Yeah, good luck explaining that to people. Good luck explaining, because I'm trying my best to explain that actually raising taxes on the rich doesn't really redistribute anything. And I've had to go step by step to explain it. You think anyone is doing that? You know what's really easy to explain? We're going to stick it to them and give it to you. All right, you got my vote. That's what has happened. That's where you get this trickle down idea. It's just a spin-off of that, of this basic power move. The Democrats have basically just decided, let's play off the jealousy of the Americans. Let's play off our natural resentful feelings and just say, hey, we're going to take from them and give it to you. You got my vote. I mean, what else do I got to lose? I'm lower class or low income. I'm middle income. Why not? If you promise me you're going to give me free money, I might as well vote for you. Unless, of course, it never really happens. How many times have I said, yeah, we're going to stick it to the rich? When's that money coming? Where's my check? Where's my money? I'm still waiting on that. The facts are simple. Lowering the taxes on the rich will help everybody. But they don't care about the facts. And the facts are kind of hard to explain. Not that hard to explain. But I guess it is. It's too easy. It is too easy. You got to admit it. I mean, it was a smart move by the Democrats today, and I can't imagine that they will ever abandon this move. Would you? It's a great play. Stick it to the rich. Even the people that aren't Marxist watching this, like, yeah, they should pay their fair share. It doesn't matter about fair share. It doesn't matter what's right. It doesn't matter, okay? What matters is what works, and it doesn't work, and we've explained it, and the evidence. In video 2, we went over a ton of evidence, and we'll continue to go over some evidence here. So the New York Times, basically, not necessarily fighting against the Republican Party's current belief, because I could imagine the Republican Party is basically jumping in on this too recently with the populist movement. They're saying, all right, the Democrats said tax the rich, let's do the tax the rich as well. So this conservative belief is kind of out the window, but once upon a time, over the last 50 years, it used to be conservative belief. Well, to fight that conservative belief, you basically have to shut down anything to get those voters along. And so how do you fight against this? I mean, which is a pretty simple idea. If you lower taxes, you change economic behavior. It's pretty simple. At least it was at one point in time. Everyone got it. But at some point, we stopped getting it. So it's easy to imagine the resentful shift. But you can't just say that, though. The New York Times, the Washington Post, Paul Krugman can't just say, yo, you jelly bro, let's just tax them. They can't do that. They have to find an academic. They have to find some sort of evidence. They need some sort of theory to base it on, to move this shift. We can't just say, play a Veruca Salt, I want it. That's not going to work. You got to find some sort of legitimate claim. And so we need to shut down this conservative idea of lowering the taxes will raise revenues to get these voters to come our way. So we got to think of something. And so they made up the New York Times, the Washington Post, Paul Krugman, many different Democrats, liberals throughout time, not the economic books, as Sowell says. This is not in economic literature. It's not there. This thing has been made up. This thing was made up to attack this idea. And they came up with this crazy theory of trickle-down nonsense, which is, we'll get to it in a second, what exactly this is. So they created this thing. They created this misrepresentation of lowering taxes generates revenue. Here's the fact, but here's what's repeated. And I'm sure you can find tons of YouTube videos that talk about this, but there's probably very few that actually talk about the facts because it's been misrepresented by the New York Times, by Paul Krugman, by the Washington Post for 50 to 60 years. It's in your textbooks, for crying out loud. And so you've completely destroyed this view. And in the end, you get the voters to go along with the resentful play. It's a straw man. That is all that this is. The trickle down theory is a straw man. It's the straw man fallacy, distorting or misrepresenting someone's argument in order to make it easier to defeat. Instead of attacking this, tax rates are lower, it actually raises revenue. Yeah, man, I can't beat that. So then I'll just say, well, that technically what you're doing is you're lowering rates to help the rich out, and then maybe the rich will spend a couple dollars here, and then maybe it'll trickle down, but then maybe it never even happens. Yeah, it's easy to win that argument. Not so hard to win the argument of when tax rates are low, People pull their money out of shelters, they spend it in the market, and the government can access it and tax it. That's a simple fact, and that's very hard to argue with. So what the Post and the Times and Paul Krugman and countless others have done is misrepresent this simple idea into it's the rich getting richer and it never really gets down to us, and that's what you're talking about. That's not what we're talking about. Thomas Sowell says it's a classic example of arguing against a caricature instead of confronting the argument actually being made, which is the same thing as a straw man. You misrepresent it, you make it look weaker, and then it's easy to defeat. Tax rates go down, government revenue goes up. That's it. That's the basic argument. That's what the Democrats of today, not the Democrats of old, have tried to defeat. And in order to defeat it, they just straw man it. They misrepresent it. So you're saying you want to make the rich richer by lowering their taxes. That's not what we're saying at all. No. And so Andrew Mellon will fight against this. He is the Treasury Secretary of Harding, Coolidge, later Hoover, and he lays it down. So here's the deal, folks. Up until 1921, the tax rates have been too high, 74% too high. 74%. Hey, I made $1. No, you didn't. You made 26 cents. What? They're too high. And so because they're so high, this is Mellon, the money is being hidden in tax shelters. Investors, the wealthy, are saying, hey, I'm not giving you 74%. I'm going to put it in legal municipal bonds where you have legally told me I can hide it. If you say legally I can hide it there away from you, I'm going to hide it away from you. And that is exactly what happened. And so instead of the money going into the market, instead of the money going to new firms or making current firms stronger, it stayed hidden in shelters where it was inefficiently used, if used at all. And so the market doesn't get the money. The firms can't use the money. They don't hire more workers. We don't get an increase in wages. This is what has happened. This is what is happening. And so Mellon says, enough. We're lowering the tax rates. It's happening. We're lowering the tax rates. And we're going to see what happens. If you don't believe me, well, we're going to find out. Because my theory says you lower the rates, the money's going to flood back in, we'll get more revenue, and the market will grow. Let's see what happens. And guess what? Lowers the tax rates. Sure enough, investors say, oh, if I invest in the market, I can possibly get high profits, reap big rewards, and you're not going to steal those rewards from me with a 74% tax rate? Okay, I'll do it now. And they pull their money out of the tax shelters and they invest their money in the market and economic output grows. They say, oh, well, let's take it out of the safe, no growth, no tax and say, oh, we'll pay some tax, but we can get big rewards by investing in firms. This is exactly what happens. Economic output grows, and because all this money floods in, firms are producing more goods, they hire more workers competing, businesses competing, wages go up, and wow, it was as simple as that. And this is facts. These are facts. I mean, it's right there. It's been there in front of our eyes the entire time, and yet we still go on and on about this trickle down jamumbo. 1921, the tax rate was 70. I'm sorry, it was 73. I said 74. Oh boy, gonna get canceled now. Tax rate was 73%. Government revenue that resulted from that 73% tax rate, $700 million. 30% of the revenue came from the rich. 70% came from Joe Bag of Donuts, you and me. 30% came from the rich. 1929, Mellon says, enough. Lowers the tax rate to 24%. What happens? Oh, hey, government revenue goes up $1 billion. And not only does government revenue increase with a lower tax rate, but the portion of the revenue is now being paid by the rich. And we're saying people over $100,000 here. So before, when the rate was low, less revenue and less coming from the rich. When you lower the taxes on the rich, revenue goes up and the rich actually pay more, because before you couldn't tax their income. It was hidden in municipal bonds or tax shelters. Now they're spending it. They're investing it, and the government has access to it. Lower the tax rate, government revenue increases. It's not that complicated, unless, of course, you create some convoluted straw man to fight this idea, which we have and we're still dealing with today. How about we make it this way so it's easier for you to understand facts? 73% tax rate in 21. $700 million in revenue. You can clearly see who was paying the taxes. Who was bearing the burden? It was Joe Bag of Donuts. It was the regular American, because the rich were hiding their money in tax shelters, which they were legally allowed to do. Mellon lowers the taxes, and wow, revenue goes up. But I mean, you can clearly see the circle's bigger, so that means the revenue's bigger. But easier. Who's paying the taxes now? Who's paying the revenue? Who's paying the expenses of the United States government? It's now the wealthy. Why did that happen? Because you lowered the tax rate. What would happen today? You know what would happen today. This is how it works. You want to raise taxes on the rich tomorrow? Guess what? You're going to go to this. They're going to move their money, and then the burden for government expenses is going to fall upon us, and we ain't got that much money, so it's not going to pay for that much. You lower the taxes, and the burden will fall on the rich, and it will increase more revenue. But how? It comes down to the market versus these bonds, these tax shelters. It comes down to taxed versus not taxed. And when taxes are too high, any wise investor is going to say, I'm putting my money in the not taxed area. When you drop the taxes, then the money comes back to the market. The government can now touch it. The government can grab it. The government can tax it. They can't get to it over here. Let's look again, another piece of evidence explaining what happens when you have high taxes. In 1916, there were over 1,000 Americans that earned $300,000 or more. That's a lot of money today. I would like to make $300,000 a year. Let alone in 1916, that's really a lot of money. There were over 1,000 Americans. By 1921, there were only 300 Americans that earned that much money every year. Now, that's not because they were poor. Oh, they always lost their money. Those poor saps. I feel sorry for them. Or, I hate the rich anyway, so it serves them right. That's not what happened. They didn't lose the money. We're talking about taxable income. They still got that money. They're still, those 1,000 people still exist. It's just that a lot of them only have less than $300,000 of taxable income. Before, they had a lot. Then they wised up and was like, why do I want the government to have access to this? I'm going to take some of this money and hide it in here. And so, yeah, technically they still had a bunch of taxable income. But a lot of that taxable income was hidden in tax shelters where the government couldn't access it. So in reality, they only had $100,000 of taxable income. So before, the government could access or tax or steal up to $300,000 or over $300,000 worth of money. Now, in many of those cases, at least in 700 of those cases, they can't get to that money anymore because it's hidden in different tax shelters. The money didn't shrink. They didn't make poor investments. They didn't lose all their money. Maybe some of them did. But most of them were just hiding it. It's their taxable income that shrunk. And your taxable income shrinks when you're able to hide money. And the reason you hide money is because taxes are too high. And these are the laws. The Treasury Department's estimate during this time is that money going to these tax shelters tripled. You raise the taxes, and you could see it. We went from 1,000 people with over $300,000 to all of a sudden there's only 300. It's because everyone said, look, they're trying to steal my money. The government's taxing me too much. They're stealing my money. I'm hiding it. The money during that time period tripled. That money could have gone to the market where it would have increased economic output and it could have been taxed. Instead, it was hidden in a shelter where it did absolutely nothing. I mean, sure, it helped build some roads. Maybe it helped some hospitals. But the economic output pales into comparison with what it could have done if it were in the market. And all you had to do is lower taxes. But the government couldn't touch it. Government couldn't get their hands on it. It was hidden from them. Tripled. This money that they couldn't touch, how much money was it? It was 3 times the annual budget was hidden from the government. Good. People were like, good, serves them right. They shouldn't get our money. But that's a lot of money that could pay for all kinds of different expenses. It was so much that it could have paid half of the budget deficit. Half of the national deficit could have been paid, but it could not have been because it was hidden in tax shelters where the government could not touch it. Andrew Mellon, the man of large income, has tended more and more to invest his capital in such a way that the tax collector cannot reach it. Cue it up. 100 years ago, same today, and 100 years from now, we're probably still going to be singing the same song. Mellon told Congress, look, if you're not going to lower taxes, then at the very least, get rid of these tax exemptions, these laws that you have passed that have protected investors, that have allowed investors to hide their money from the government. Just get rid of the law. What's Congress's response? No. Now, we could go into a video where you can explain all the details of why exactly Congress would decide, no, we got to keep the tax shelters. But the simplest answer that we can get in this video real quickly is, who are the congressmen beholden to? Oh, the American people. Stop. It's American voters, of course, those days. Who do you think that when the phone rings, what's the first phone call that they answer? It's the elite, it's the rich, it's the wealthy, it's the investors that are hiding their money. You think the congressman is going to then pass a law that hurts the people that help them as a congressman? You think they're going to stab the rich in the back? You think they're going to pass a law that hurts the investors? Not going to happen. Not going to happen. So this idea of getting rid of these tax shelters, not going to happen. They still exist today. Well, why don't we get rid of them? It's the same story today. You think your congressman is going to stab the back of the most wealthy, prestigious, with the most power? Oh yeah, you know what? Let's hurt the people with the most power. Good luck with that. So these tax shelters are going to stay in place. He goes on further to say, it is incredible that a system of taxation which permits a man with an income of $1 million a year to pay not 1 cent to support of his government, and it should remain unaltered. So Mellon's saying, one, it is crazy that you have passed a law that says they don't have to pay taxes. It's crazy. It is beyond belief that our Congress would say the wealthy investors, the elite, they ain't got to pay taxes. Still the same today. So Mellon would say the same thing. But number two, there it is. Number two, not that it exists, but you refuse to change it. It's the same thing today. And you could say this to our Congress today. You could say, it is crazy that you allow the elite through tax exemptions and write-offs to not pay a cent of tax. That's crazy. But what is worse is that you refuse to change it. You refuse to serve the people. You continue to bow to your masters, to your elite, to your wealthy. They don't pay a dime in taxes, and you won't change it. It's a clown world. And that's where Mellon says, look, this thing is just a gesture. It's just a gesture because you're not even really taxing them. This is just politicians playing games, doing victory laps, and in the back room, they're high-fiving the rich. They're high-fiving the elites. They come out and say, we're sticking it to them. We're taxing the rich at 73%. Mellon says, it's just a gesture, folks. It's symbolic. It's not real. They say they're paying the taxes, and the law says they're paying the taxes, but they don't really pay the taxes. When the tax rate was 73%, only 30% of our revenue was coming from the rich. On paper, yep, that's a really high tax rate, but none of them are actually paying it because it's going into tax shelters. So the politicians look like this hero of the people. And that's the same thing today when they come out and say, we're going to raise the taxes on the rich. We're going to help you out. Vote for me. They're not really raising the taxes on the rich. Sure, it is in paper, but the rich never actually pay for it. They don't. It's a gesture. They never collect the money. They cannot capture the money. And you can come up with all kinds of different theories and VATs and ways of VAT taxes and you're never going to capture the money. It's not going to happen. And in the end, who wins? It's just a Potemkin village, by the way. Like it's just symbolic. It's not real. It looks like from the outside, oh, it looks like a great little town. And then you look and say, wait, there's nothing here. Where are the receipts? Let me see the receipts. You're not really collecting any money after all. You're saying you're taxing them. You're saying you're sticking it to the man. And then when we look at the records, where's the money? Where's the money, Lebowski? Where's the money? You're not collecting it. It's all a show. It's a gesture. You're getting votes, doing all this, and meanwhile, in the back room, you're high-fiving the rich who get to keep their money. You know how you solve this? You get rid of taxes, or you just lower the taxes. Lower the tax rate. Stop playing games. We can keep pretending, oh yeah, we're going to stick to. They're never going to pay. They're never going to pay. So why are we continuing the show? Lower the rates. At the very least, they'll pull the money out of the shelters. It'll go into the markets, which will increase economic output. And finally, the government can get their greedy hands on it. This has all been taken from Trickle Down Theory and Tax Cuts for the Rich by Thomas Sowell. Please read his books. Please check out his other YouTube videos. But if you don't got time or you just like the visuals, I'm here for you. American History 1, 2, Civics Economics, quick lessons from books, all with visual aids to help you understand these concepts. A free version is on his website. I made a quick link. That's tinyurl.com/TS tax cuts. And you can find this 13-page book/pamphlet. If you want to go give to your corporate overlords, you can get it for $5 at Amazon, of which I imagine $4.99 goes to Amazon. I do not encourage you. Thomas Sowell doesn't need the money. He's probably not getting a penny anyway. I don't think the Hoover Institute's getting anything from this either. I mean, they put it for free on the website for a reason. Like, if you want to help Jeff Bezos out, go ahead. I bought this because I'm a Thomas Sowell nerd, but I do slightly regret giving money to Amazon. So just go to the free link or just watch these videos. That'll work as well. Hopefully these videos have helped out. Please subscribe. Please like. Please share. Leave comments. I try to respond to as many comments as I can. YouTube.com/social studies games are where all my videos are. There's a bunch of different playlists. You can also go to socialstudiesgames.net. There's more activities and resources to help out with your history and economics learning and other ideas as well. I appreciate you guys checking out the video. Again, subscribe, share, and like. Hopefully we are helping you out here.